This panel discussion is titled Bridging the Content Supply Chain and Leveraging Alternate Content. Now, as we know, the landscape of cinema content supply has faced significant challenges, including delays in movies, production setbacks, strikes, and national events. These factors have led to potential shortages in theatrical content, prompting the exploration of alternative offerings to keep cinemas vibrant and appealing. Today, we will explore insights and strategies to tackle industry challenges by diversifying content and creating unique experiences. Cinemas can attract a broader audience and reduce the impact of content shortages. Embracing innovative programming such as themed events, local collaborations can further enhance audience engagement. And our commitment to creativity and community will be vital in revitalizing the cinema experience. So let's work together today to ensure that cinemas remain an essential part of the entertainment landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely happy to say that our panelists today bring a wealth of experience and unique perspectives that will help us navigate these challenges. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming on stage the moderator for this extremely interesting panel discussion, Mr. Saurabh Verma, film director and founder, Hitflick. Please put your hands together, come on, thank you. May I please request on stage our panelists, Mr. Amit Kumar Sharma, Managing Director, Miraj Entertainment. Next, may I please welcome Mr. Jackky Bhagnani, film producer and actor, founder and managing director, Jjust. Mr. Raghav Anand, partner and leader media, digital and Convergence, Africa, India and Middle East, Ernst Young. Mr. Rahul Puri, managing director, Mukta A2 Cinemas. Mr. Rajesh Mishra, Executive Director and Group CEO, UFO Movies. And Mr. Thomas D'Souza, Senior Vice President, Programming, PVR, Inox. Ladies and gentlemen, before they begin, please give them a huge round of applause. Come on, this is a post-lunch session. I was hoping to see a lot more energy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you, Saurabh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Having a session just after lunch is not a great idea, Michelle. But since we didn't have a choice, I'd just like to say that I think we have a very rich talent. I mean, a lot of people, stalwarts from the industry. But setting up a cinema itself is a very difficult task. Creating content is, I think, the world's toughest job. Creating good content is even tougher. But when you set up exhibition and any kind of an outlet, the most important thing is to get in footfalls. And to get in footfalls, one of the most dependent things in cinemas is movies. But what do you do beyond movies? I mean, वैसे ही cinemas शादी खानों में बदल रहे हैं. So can we create marriage halls in cinemas? Can we create a gaming zone in cinemas? Can we do something disruptive in cinemas? That's a question I think everyone's been discussing for a very long time. And the world has changed post-pandemic. So starting our session on alternate content and how do you bridge the gap, I'll start with PVR, the known devil. And Thomas, just one question to you, that what is alternate content? क्या चल रहा है? क्या बिक रहा है?
So, hi, good afternoon everyone. क्या बिक रहा है? वो हम भी सोच रहे हैं कि क्या बिक रहा है.
But in alternate, what works? What is
alternate
it?
Content, see, PVR has been lucky and we've been exploring this idea from quite a long now. And right from the concert films or maybe the sporting, live sporting and the animes are doing quite well. If I have to name some in terms of live concert, there are these BTS which have done tremendously well for us.
Amongst anime and BTS, which is working? What is the one?
So BTS definitely was #1 for us. If I want to rank it, then BTS definitely, the moment we open the advances, we see the huge response which we get from these concerts. But anime, yes, yeah, even in anime, if you look at Suzume or Demon Slayer, Jujutsu, all these movies have done quite well.
And what is the percentage of alternate content being screened in
So
PVR?
if I'll put together the entire, including the re-releases and everything, it contributes around 5% of the total admissions which we have.
So I thought internationally the benchmark is 3% is very high. If you're saying 5, that's super
Yes,
good.
yeah.
Cool. So Jackky, I think you are the star of the event as well. So I know Jackky from a very long time, and not many know that he's a hardcore movie buff. जिसको कहते हैं फिल्मी कीड़ा from all aspects, not just a producer or a talent, but he knows a lot about films, a lot more than I think many of us know. Jackky, from my perspective, you are a content creator. And how do you see cinemas in terms of alternate content? Do you see a future in that? And one of the youngest guys, apart from me in this panel, what do you think?
I thought you were the youngest.
After me.
But I would like to say that I clearly now know what not to do. That's one very, very, very big learning. And I was just telling him that I think RSTDM ka share will be more than Ganpat.
Super.
Right. So it's been a great learning. I had a very, very good conversation outside also. I think somewhere personally, as far as cinema is concerned, Suresh sir is here, legend. I think what they are doing correctly is somewhere I feel the connect with the masses is what is required and need of the hour. That is one. Be it alternate, be it primary, be it anything. I just personally what I feel is audiences consume content very differently than what we are thinking in our offices, right? And A plus B is not equal to C. If something which is good is something which is connecting with them, then it could be even an unknown person and they are going and supporting that content. And something which is not resonating with them at an emotional level, or if it's something nothing new for them, then it could be the biggest faces, biggest production houses, they are not interested. So I think that's the biggest learning which I've got. And yeah, as in you have to move with time. The Gen Zs want different things. If that means alternate, then that alternate does not remain alternate. That becomes primary. So I would say that.
But are you diversifying into gaming, merchandising, anything like that?
I will diversify into everything which works because we are here to do stuff for the audiences. So if they are moving, we have to move with them. If I stick around and say मैं यही करता हूँ और मैं यही करूँगा और जनता को कुछ और देखना है या कुछ और चीज़ों से enjoy करना है, then I think I am the one who's going to lose out, not them.
Cool. So coming to Amit, the farthest person from my seat. Amit, we believe that cinema is a mirage. It's a very difficult business to work on. But you master in B and C centers also, where you know the audiences in a way a lot of people in Mumbai may not know. So what is your thought on alternate content and B and C centers and how do they work?
Well, actually, cinema is Miraj. That's why it's Miraj Cinemas. So
एक बार फिर बोल दो Miraj.
Miraj. So Saurabh, actually, I mean, if you'll ask me honestly, the gap is just not in content, but at the same time from aspiration and from the consumption is also bridging between the tier 2, tier 3 and versus the Bombay, Delhi. Because see, when you look at the tier 2, tier 3 cities, these are not the rural market anymore because you have to understand India has 28.5 years. That's the average age of India. So the most of the people are youngster. India is the biggest, cell phone market of the world, which is like when it comes to the smartphone market. See, whenever it comes to consumption story, what you buy, what you wear, what you watch, it completely depends on kind of aspiration, and aspiration comes from information. So even if you're going to tier 2, tier 3 cities, you cannot rule out that these guys are no less than actually the Bombay, Delhi, people in terms of their mindset anymore. Having said that, why I'm giving this example is, see, if we are talking about a Taylor Swift concert and we open 15, 17 locations all across the country, we get the maximum inquiry from Sonipat. obviously like in a tier 4 city of the country, which has a population not more than like, say 4,
So
5
you're
lakhs.
saying Sonipat gets the maximum inquiry in comparison to any other
Then
state?
why not Taylor Swift concert here at Sonipat? So we have to understand, we have to stop putting that into the, the categories of consumption. The consumption category is very simple. A good, product, whether it is Stree, whether it is, Jawan, whether it is, you talk about Gadar, anything which will, which will appeal the audience in general, which will work. And you look at, how the Hollywood film consumption is also increasing in the smaller cities. Of course, with the dub version, sometimes with the subtitles. But yeah, the consumption story is there in all across.
Cool. So coming to Rahul, what is your take from your cinema perspective on alternate content? Do you think it's a necessary evil, or you think there's a future?
Well, I think the last, year or so, we've definitely seen cinemas try things, try different things, whether it's concerts, whether it's re-releasing of old movies. PVR obviously have done a lot with anime. I was just told that apparently cinemas did the election results, which I didn't know. But, we are trying a lot of different things. But the reason for that is what? The reason for that is that, there is a lack of what you would call primary content that's working. So the screens are available for us to try out stuff. Now the question, I suppose, is that are you willing to sort of bet on that content? Should the, what we're calling, primary pipeline fix itself and come back to perhaps the way that it was pre the pandemic? Are you still willing to bet on a number of these alternative content decisions or choices that we've made over the last year? And I think that that will be horses for courses. That will be different cinemas in different localities taking their own decisions, making their own choices based on what that demand is for that particular area. I agree with what Amit says completely. We have to stop this idea of Bombay, Delhi is one mindset and the rest of India is another mindset. At the end of the day, India is the youngest country in the world, and a lot of that young mindset is quite similar. So I think that in terms of looking at alternate content, it's all well and good to talk about it now when there are screens available. I think the big question is that should we get back to a situation where films are performing the way we all want them to perform? Then what will be the take on alternative content then?
No, but don't you think we should nurture this in spite of the fact that the films will work?
I think we should nurture it. We should absolutely nurture it. But the question of what will we nurture? That, I think, is up in the air until, it's almost like, you've got a quick fix for something because, your main sort of pipeline into your house is broken. So you've got a quick fix for something. But when that main pipeline is repaired, you don't continue to use the quick fix, or at least in the way that you did when the pipeline was broken. So I think that it is a little premature to talk about it now when we all have an oversupply of screens and a dearth of content coming from films. The question to ask is that when that supply chain fixes itself, then what is the choices that we're going to make?
But did you try for Coldplay tickets?
Did I
Try.
Absolutely not.
Oh, you did.
Absolutely not.
So cool. Then I can't ask you the next question. So, because even if Book My Show is shifting from that, Rajesh, from your perspective, and there's a very interesting question which I need to ask you. You are the masters of advertising, marketing, bringing in brands to cinemas in places a lot of people in Andheri would not know, but you're bringing in additional revenues to your cinemas. So what is your take in alternate content and how do brands see it?
The way to see alternate content, I would assume, is it could be the filler It cannot be the driver for a cinema. The day we start relying on alternate content to run a cinema, that means we are in the wrong set of business. It just fills gaps. Tentpole events, yes, why not? I mean, in 2009, we did IPL live in cinemas, but it cannot sustain a cinema. What will sustain cinemas is films. Let's be very clear about something about that. And I'm at least very clear. The fallacy in our narrative is that we have divided ourselves into too many buckets. We release films in almost 25 languages, but they don't cross borders. This is one of the gaps that we try to fill post-pandemic, and we realized the South cinema opened up earlier, North had not opened up at all. There was no content over there. We started moving films from South to the North. Between then and now, we have released almost 250 films of South languages in the northern states. Long before One Nation, One Election came up, I had always said One Nation, One Film. Why can you not have a South star releasing films all across India? In Hindi, we make 200, 225 films a year. South alone makes 900 films a year. Suresh Babu is here, I mean, one of the most leading names in Indian cinema. He will bear me out. There is so much content available in the country. We are not marketing it. NTR became famous with RRR. Look at the impact it has had on Devra. Devra is, it's running in one of our cinemas in Dhaulana in UP at 60% occupancy.
And is it the same language or you dubbed it?
Dubbed it. It doesn't matter. People want to see movies. People want to see movies. They want to see films. They are not bothered about language or this or that. I think marketing it. Take the case of your existing content. You have re-releases running which are doing better business. That is a sheer indication of people want to go to cinemas. They are looking for content. They are looking for an outlet. So coming back to your question, I digress a little. Alternate content will always be welcome, but it cannot be the mainstay of a cinema. And that is where we need to be careful about how we position this narrative about alternate content.
But how do brands, how do advertisers see it? Do they see it as an opportunity or they're more focused on films? Alternate content.
It's very difficult to advertise across live events. The ads are already coming in interspersed with the feed. So there is no ability. You can just put out some standees or something or probably run some before or after. But you can't break into the content like they do who are advertising on the television. So brands look at footfalls. Brands would not be too fussed about what type of content it is coming. Whether a person is consuming a South film or a North film or a Bhojpuri film or whatever type of film. That is the way to see for advertisers also. I mean, they might tag along with a big name film, but if it comes down with 5%, 10% collection, they are shortchanged, right? But a smaller film, if it is giving them higher footfalls, so why not? So in line with this, we also launched our business called Procat. Like this is cost per contact selling. So I take a deal with an advertiser basis the number of seats on the bums on the seat over there. How many eyeballs were delivered? I charge according to that. So if 2% charge, I charge you accordingly. If there are 200 people, you get charged accordingly. So advertisers will migrate towards eyeballs.
Great. So Raghav, coming to you, you've heard them all. Some say it's a great idea. Some say, "ठीक है यार, picture ही नहीं है तो चला रहे." What is your take?
Right. I think it's an interesting thing. I agree with many of them that at this point in time, the business model doesn't allow just alternate content to fuel the entire premise. But I think I would probably look at it as two separate problems. The first problem is in the content supply chain, which is in the cinemas and the movies that are getting made. There are 3 or 4 problems which need to get addressed. There is a problem of institutional capital coming into movie making. The money has got sucked out, given COVID, given some of the things that have happened. We have at this point cracked a few things. We got $350 million into institutional capital into films for the first time ever coming in. So that will broad base the content making. So that's one part of this problem. The other part which is happening.
You got these dollars where? Sorry. पैसे की बात सुनी तो
पैसे की बात तो it is coming from an institutional capital. I can't name the fund, but it is coming from outside India.
And what would they invest in?
They would invest in a series of films and music aggregation.
So before you meet Jackky, please meet me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was just
Jackie can fund his own.
please let me know where this is coming from.
So
I'll
this-
give you my visiting card. Please continue.
This is the first part of what needs to get cracked, because otherwise, with existing pool of money, it will keep meandering into the smaller buckets. The second thing that is happening as we go along is that you would also find that people are coming in for an experience. I think we all are starting to talk that language to say it's not content, it is an experience. And if it is an experience, suddenly the VFX budgets are becoming 70-80% of the entire cost, right? So there are a new breed of guys stepping into production at this point in time. They're saying, I'm 70-80% of the cost, why can't I produce the entire movie? And that's completely different from them being service providers who are sort of handed out 20-25% of the money and handed out from that perspective. So that is also bringing in an entirely different set of content. Third, yes, there is a problem in there is a difference in the audience viewership. Now I have large screen HD TVs and I have content coming in. I need a completely different experience for me to step into a theater. So these three issues on the traditional supply chain we need to solve. But I think on the alternate content, which was your question, we need to start. I have a lot of clients who talk to me about alternate experiences, and I'll name a few. It could be live sports events, like they said. It could be esports, for example, right? It could be live concerts, stand-up comedies where they want to network and do it across 10 towns, but they want to do it in one place, right? All of these guys are going out and searching for venues, searching for places where they can create that experience. They all talk about the fact that I'm constrained by the 2,000 people who could be watching it here. And he also spoke about the B towns and C towns wanting access to that entire set of events. I know people who travel like, half of the country to watch a sporting event or a live concert event from that point of view. I think there is an opportunity. But what is lacking? Why are people saying that it is not a profitable venture? Is because it is not a seamless pipeline like a movie. So suppose I might get some inquiries for 2 or 3 events or 2 or 3 ticketing shows. Do I have a pipeline where all the guys who want to do an esports event, all the guys who want to do a live event can directly reach the theater and say, I want 20 theaters? That pipeline does not exist. So there is a demand, there is a supply, but that interconnection is not happening. And the day that happens, you will see alternate content going to about 5% to 8% to 10%. And that's when that will become serious business. But one thing is for sure, we need to look at and say, I have a piece of real estate. How do I create an experience here where people will come? I think that's the bottom line.
Great. So Thomas, coming to you, now there are 2 thoughts in this panel. One is that, since films are not working, let's focus on alternate content. And one is your effort to drive an audience for alternate content since inception of PVR, where you are, even if we talk about advertising, you don't sell per footfall. You say you have a captive audience, because if we are looking at footfall, wo to bahar hoarding bhi deti hai, but we have these captive audience. So what is your take on any experience you have in alternate content which you believe Kiar was better than anything else?
This is one episode which I would like to share. I was there for the opening ceremony of Japan Film Festival in one of our property. At that time, I had to give a opening remark on that festival. So I was just hearing these Japanese people talking about this movie called Suzumi, which was not released in India, and that was released in Japan at that particular time.
It's anime. It's
Anime, yes, the anime one. So while discussing, everyone was praising that movie, how big it had opened in Japan, and we had no information about that film. In the afternoon, while I was chatting with PVR Pictures team, who was also trying to get the rights for that movie in India. So when I got the chance to go on the stage to give my opening remark, at that time I just mentioned there were 300 people sitting in the auditorium. So I just mentioned at that particular time that we are trying for this film to get the Indian right for this movie, and we will ensure you that this movie will release in India. The reaction which I got from the audience at that time was like, it just reshaped my entire thought process of what alternate content is, what people want. The Gen Z, someone was talking about, Jackky was talking about the Gen Z crowd. What they need actually at that particular time, we got to know that this is something which, there is audience for this. And that's where then we have started developing. We are not leaving even one anime which is not releasing in India. PVR Pictures, PVR Cinemas, Inox now. We are putting our all efforts to get all type of content.
So there's another type of alternate content which has really worked is re-release of films. So there are films, Imtiaz Ali films have worked really, really well, and RSTDM, Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein, when it released, I remember Pooja Films doing massive merchandising, marketing, because the title was big, they called it RSTDM. This, I think, was one of the first because Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein sounded very big. The music, I think, caught on after the release. But now suddenly, two films I'd like to mention, Jackky, here. One obviously is RSTDM and the second is Tumbad. And the reason I'm saying this is because both are different genre. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ romance में nostalgia आ रहा है. A Gadar is also working. RSTDM is also. So what is your thought on that? Why is this? Why are people coming to watch these films? Jackky, question to you.
No, clearly, I personally feel it's nostalgia for sure, and somewhere I feel like all the veterans here have spoken is that the content has resonated with the audiences. So there is the newer content somewhere is not resonating at that level, right? For me to say it with a dry tongue-in-cheek humor that Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein practically will give me more share than Ganpat. On one hand, yes, it's funny, but on the other hand, it's not a good thing. So it's a great learning for me also. And
But why has it worked? Why have people come?
because there's nostalgia. The music is something which I feel has connected. As far as RSTDM is concerned,
Yeah.
the emotion has connected, somewhere. And my personal reading, and I can be wrong because I'm also in a stage at this point of my career of evaluating. And like Thomas said, even like William Goldman said, no one knows, no one has the right answer. But what I feel is, I'm personally seeing a lot of regional films doing really well, or regional talent doing really well, because my take is that when you're making a regional film for a regional audience, for it to be successful, you cannot just cater to the capital of the state, but you have to cater to the whole state, right? So when that principle is used and a pan-India film is made, or a regional talent is making a Hindi film, you see that वो emotion है, वो बाप का emotion है, माँ का emotion है, बहन का, दोस्त का, पैर छू रहे हैं, music है. So somewhere I feel that's the disconnect, कि खाली razzmatazz is not something which the Gen Z is looking for, because on internet everything is available. Like he said, Sonipat also knows Taylor Swift now. So, and like how he was saying, it's about experience. If you want me to come and see your film in the theater this week and not wait for 56 days, which also I feel has now become public knowledge. We are to be blamed. We publicized it so much कि 56 days बाद आ रही है. तो अगर आपको उतना excitement इस weekend पे नहीं किया है, तो ठीक है, 56 days के लिए रुक जाएंगे. So I feel it's too layered, a conversation. Questions like that cannot be answered, only at one level.
मेरे लिए तो music था, I guess. So
Music, of
everybody has a
course.
different
Of course.
take.
It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Give me something good enough for me to come in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess it worked throughout the years. And there's one more example. There was a film called Incredibles. When the first one released, there were a certain number of people. But by the time the second part released, which was after a decade.
KGF.
Yeah. So many examples. So Amit, what is your take? Re-release being one of the alternate content. Why is it working?
So I think I'll probably go back a little step behind before answering like, what is working in release and etc. See why this re-release trend. So technically we are running short of the primary content. That's point number one. Point number two, I think we are not talking about a particular mistake by overall industry from content maker to exhibitor, everyone, is that if there was a good content, we have not been able to excite the consumer for that. So the marketing of the content is very, very important. So there are few content which was really, really good, but at the same time it has not been able to excite people. As we know, like, there are certain windows we follow between the cinema and the other platforms to release. आप अगर पर्टिकुलर वीकेंड में उसको मूवी को नहीं देख रहे हो, दूसरे वीकेंड में नहीं देख रहे हो, तो आप कहते हो कि छोड़ो यार, बाद में देख लेंगे. एंड यू बेसिकली मिस आउट ऑन टू द कंटेंट. यू आर नॉट making the people excited to go and watch it on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's something which is lacking very, very big time. And this is, we've been very, very vocal about it. And I don't see it's only the, the content maker, the distributors, the producers, the studio's responsibility only. But at the same time, when you look at, I believe this is actually the responsibility of the exhibitors also, because when you look at the past days, single screens owners used to go and ensure कि वो चौक पे जाके banner लगाते थे, poster लगाते थे. Today, probably, if we see that technologies are, biggest competition, when you look at technologies like your Netflix, Amazon, and the OTT platform, I believe technology is also your biggest supporter at this moment. How you're using technology, that also makes the difference in terms of marketing of the film, in terms of reaching out to people. See, when you're making a primary content, or whether you're re-releasing a film, something, the data has to be looked at very, very minutely. I can only tell you from my experience right now, there are two things which has worked in re-release, because re-release has started post the COVID. Of course, the music of a film, which has a good movie music in the film, actually people have come in a long number. But apart from that is one very, very important point, is a particular film which has become very, very big on the smaller screen compared to the, the cinema when it got released at the first hand. And it has been appreciated on the smaller screen. People who missed out, the Gen Z crowd which we are talking about, they are coming back in large number to enjoy that film. So whether you look at in a case of, say, Rockstar, which was a fantastic film with the music, but at the same time it did not get its due respect when it got released. When you look at Tumbar, it got released in 2018, and because this film grew on the smaller screen, people came in a long number. I mean, if I can just put across a number, you'll be amazed to know, in Miraj cinemas, this is the 4th highest in terms of admission this financial year, post-April. You're talking about only 3 films doing bigger than that. That's the kind of thing which you have to look at. And when you believe in a content, you also as an exhibitor go and market that content. So this is something which has came up very, very clearly. Even we have gone and done Gangs of Wasipur. And Gangs of Wasipur, we have seen extraordinary number all across. So this is something probably I feel it's working. I think alternate content mein, but when we are talking about the gaming, we are talking about esports, when we talk about, the other kind of medium, there's one thing which is still missing. And I believe that is something can be another, future for us. Pre-COVID, we did not have, except for Bahubali and KGF, to release from, say, regional languages to north part of the country. And we didn't have this concept of the, the pan-India film. Today, we have all the films which is coming from, imported films are Hollywood films. But that's actually only American films. What about Spanish? What about Korean? What about Chinese? What about Russian? The Russian makes the best horror film. So that is something I believe, that's the kind of gap which is there. And this can also become a very, very big number tomorrow going forward, because you as an audience is also consuming those international content in your TV, in your OTT, and you are falling in love with those guys. So I believe that tomorrow, if you have that, the professor of Money Heist, a Spanish film, you never know, 100 crore written on the wall. The similar kind of content probably we need to start looking at. I believe it's gonna be here. Of course, can't be mainstream content, but if it reaches to 10, 15%, 20% of the total number, then we are talking about the life is taken care.
So 2 things I note from your point, and PVR, please note. Focus on marketing and focus on Russians.
Everyone should focus on Russian films.
Okay.
Actually, I have a question. When we say focus on marketing, what does that mean? because it's so subjective.
No,
Right, because it's a cost.
So, no, Jackky, so the thing is that when you sit in a ticket counter for a few hours, you see a lot of consumer habits. Unfortunately, that data is not available outside. But you know how people perceive posters. Like, you know, I feel one of the biggest regret is not having photo sets in cinemas. Cinemas not allowing standees now. You know, that was one of the reasons I used to go to cinema, spend time a little earlier to watch standees and photo sets. अभी वो थोड़ा सा ना ज़्यादा glossy होता जा रहा है. So I guess these are small things. There are 10,000 other reasons as well. And I think we're getting lost in the crowd as well. Amit needs to add something to that.
See, I'll tell you. So what happens when you look at a typical movie marketing? आप जो भी इंटरनेट में कर रहे हो उसके बाद में आप जो भी आउटडोर करो सब कुछ करो सारा कुछ जो है ना वो सिर्फ बैंड्रा से लेकर अंधेरी के बीच में होता है. So the biggest, you know, if you do and if you just look at that, you know, marketing of a film between Bandra to Andheri, it doesn't even go to Kandivali, Borivali. But what about Amravati? What about Akola? What about Sonipat and those kind of places? वहाँ कोई reach ही नहीं है किसी भी film की. And when you look at Amravati and Akola actually contribute as high as your Andheri kind of cinema. So you know so movie marketing is becoming, and I would rather say rather than movie marketing only, but I would say content making, movie marketing, cinema making. And I see this problem in all three places. We try to do something which appeals us. We have stopped taking the feedback. And that's where the biggest concern is. See, we have the data. We know, I mean, PVR में 16 करोड़ कितने लोग आते हैं फिल्म देखने 16 करोड़ लोग हमारे यहाँ पे 2 करोड़ लोग आज हमारे पास सबका डेटा है. We know when Jackky is going, which movie to watch, which theater to watch, and which kind of genre to watch. Now, it is about if someone has gone and watched a horror film at my place, I'm gonna throw him a Tumbad is re-releasing again, and this is the best in the genre. And that's how the people come back. And this is exactly what we're doing now. I mean, we have started spending a lot in terms of target-based, data-driven marketing. We started asking people, what are the kind of film you want to watch in case of re-release? What are the kind of alternate content you want to watch? So till that time, there is a feedback mechanism is not there. And of course, like, you know, there is a certain amount of disconnect between the content maker and the exhibitor. Because we sit with our data and we realize, but at the same time, that content, you know, the feedback also needs to go up there. So I think feedback is more important in that case.
I'll just add to that, you know.
No, you're the most important person here. Please speak. The money man.
The money man, yes. No, I think the idea there is in movie marketing, what I've seen is generally we're doing publicity. Publicity is the mindset, which is about putting out the content and people to sort of understand. There are others who have evolved to doing marketing the way it has to be done. But if you look at digital, in any other industry, it's neither about publicity nor about marketing, it's about customer acquisition. Customer acquisition means here is a product, and I know there is some guy, like you said in Sonipat, there is some guy there. How do I give precise marketing and acquire that guy into my theaters? Now the question is, who's going to do that? Is that going to be the movie guy, the producer who's going to do that? Is it going to be the theater who's going to do that? And in between, we just left with some publicity of the content. And if the producers are very good, some concentrated marketing, but there isn't customer acquisition happening. And that, yeah.
I absolutely agree with that.
And that
was my question actually.
that gap means that there is a different type of content. Publicity is going to a different set of audience, and you don't get the theaters filled up, and the money gets sucked out of the ecosystem. Next set of content gets delayed.
So Rahul, we quickly kind of wrap it up because Michelle is staring at us. So what do you think? Is data an important criteria to bring in the audience, or we need to do more? Because see, there's another thought here. कि cinema सिर्फ अंधेरी में है, beyond है ही नहीं. So if A2 does something, you know, is just the database good enough for marketing, or what is your thought as a producer, as an exhibitor, as a social media person?
Data is very important.
But are we using it?
I don't think we're using it well enough, is the fact of the matter. I think the problem is that there is a limited understanding in the industry of what digital marketing can do. I think we use it as Raghav said, I think we use it as a dissemination tool without actually thinking about how. I mean, there's one thing about putting up a poster and getting everybody to see it. It's a completely different thing to put up a poster that, you know, propels somebody to go in and watch that, right? We are not doing enough of that. I think we're taking the audience for granted. I think we have taken the audience for granted, which is why we're in the situation that we're in, frankly. And I think we need to stop taking them for granted. I think we need to use the data and what the data is telling us. We need to stop trying to put our own spin on it. We need to just go with what the data is telling us and act upon that data, right? I mean, if there is a market for anime in Sonipat seems to keep coming up again and again, so I'll just go with Sonipat.
Yeah.
But if there is a market for anime in Sonipat, take anime to Sonipat, right? I mean, there just seems to be a whole set of almost, not old-fashioned thinking, but thinking in terms of, but ye wahan nahi chalega, aisa nahi hota hai, waisa nahi hota hai, which I feel is holding us back. I think the data is there, as Amit says, there's more than enough data that is captured between all the cinema players. It's just a question of having somebody who can analyze that data and then taking the analysis on board, not just ignoring it and coming up with your own 2 bits on that.
Rajesh, your take?
Yeah, I mean, importance of data cannot be undermined in any way, but data will take you so much, to an extent. Ultimately, it is the content which has to hold. Just because you have a super set of computers and a humongous amount of data and you can slice, dice it across the country, it's not going to make it.
How do you bring in product? If a product is not working, there has to be some tool. What
product,
Rahul is saying is there is data which is a, gun. What else do you use?
My sense is data is a marketing tool towards the end of it. It should also be used while you're making the film. At the writing stage, somewhere I think we have lost the plot at the writing stage itself. The fact that so many older films are resonating with people, it means there is an audience for people to come to cinemas. It means people like quality cinemas. The era of opening weekends is gone was. Today, it's first 2 shows. The first 2 shows will determine what word of mouth goes out in the market and how the trajectory of the movie will take off from there. So, large part of the concentration, and again, I'm not a producer and I'm preaching to the choir over here maybe, but having said that, my personal experience or whatever I have seen in this industry over 30 years is good stories told well always work. Whether it's a superstar cast or whether it's a very, very simple star cast. You take the films of Rishikesh Mukherjee or you take the films of people like Tumbad. No star cast. In rerun it is working so much. Again, forget Tumbad. You take any other small film that does well. Lapata Ladies for that matter. It's garnering interest. It would bring people to the audiences. But data, advertising, good writing, it's a combination factor. One cannot completely feed the other.
Fair enough. So it's just that now that 3 is a hit and Bhool Bhulaiya 2 trailer is released, I think everybody will try to make horror comedies now, and that's the problem, that sab bhed chal mein phase hai. So I guess the outcome is nobody knows nothing. Everybody's trying their luck. Everybody has a different philosophy. But do we have time to throw another joke? No. So fair enough. So we'll end the session here. Thank you so much. Please, Michelle.
A huge thank you to our speakers for your valuable insights today. We would love to hear a lot more jokes, but due to the paucity of time and a very tight schedule, I'm sorry, we're not able to do that. All right. So we would like to take this moment to thank our speakers for their time and presence. May I please invite Mr. Raghav on stage to please felicitate and thank our speakers with a small token of our appreciation for their time. Thank you, Mr. Amit Kumar Sharma. It's always a delight to have you here at the Big Cine Expo. Thank you, Mr. Jackky Bhagnani. Thank you for joining us. A big thank you to Mr. Raghav Anand. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Puri. Next, we would like to thank Mr. Rajesh Mishra. Next, we would like to thank Mr. Thomas D'Souza. And finally, a big thank you to the man who took this conversation through beautifully. Thank you very much, Mr. Saurabh Verma. It's always a pleasure to have you here on this platform, year on year, to share your thoughts with us and keep us updated on the new trends in the market. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not hear you loud. Let's give them a huge round of applause, please.